What is going on, my broskiis? My name is Toadski, back again, here to bring you guys yet another One Piece Treasure Cruise video, and of course we're here with some more Pirate Rumble action. So we did make the dedicated video for St. Peter, so of course we wanted to make the dedicated video here for NUSJURO. And man, this guy, look, the thing is a lot of people did mention in like my Grand Party videos, they said, you should use NUSJURO in Grand Party, he's pretty good in Grand Party. And while I do think that he potentially has some use in Grand Party, I wasn't really the biggest fan of his GP skill, requiring the fact that you needed to defeat enemies for it to trigger. So it's more of like a win more mechanic rather than, you know, something that you could use as like almost like a comeback mechanic. It definitely feels like the comeback mechanics are more powerful because it allows you to get back into the game and potentially win games that you wouldn't normally win. However, of course, you can find some really key situations where if you get this charged in one of your earlier Grand Party fights, it could definitely help you later on. But being able to use him in normal team building for Pirate Rumble, this character is actually very strong. And one of the things that I initially was thinking about when this character's details were first revealed was, how did this guy even fit in a slasher team? Because I felt like at that time that slasher teams were pretty much solved, like there wasn't really a way to make them much better. However, the team that you're seeing here on screen is the one that we used for all of the fights in this video, I think with some minor changes to the bench, and this team just slaps. It just goes absolutely crazy. Now, one caveat to this team though is the fact that Roger, Rayleigh, and Gaban are really only useful when you have really good investments into them, because at base level, at level 99, they're not going to do a ton of damage. But once they have relatively decent investments, my one here is level 120, using 4 level limit break wanted posters to get him to that point, and I can't even imagine the damage that they would do at level 150. Definitely needed to have that investment to make it worthwhile. But the combo of having Zoro, Sanji, and Shanks to potentially provide the hasting, the defenses that they have with their rumble abilities, the defenses via their specials with the shield and all of that, charging of specials, haste, that combo is so potent that when that procs, allowing you to use the specials of S-Hawk, Roger, Rayleigh, Gaban, and then also NUSJURO, you're just killing everything. Like, this is against challenge difficulty bosses, and once this combo goes off, like, we're almost clearing the entire field, which against challenge difficulty is very, very hard to do. So moving on to our next fight here, this challenge difficulty boss specifically against Alpha, I actually hadn't beaten since it came out. I tried a bunch of different teams, I just couldn't really find a way to navigate through this fight. One of the main issues is the fact that they have a way to charge their specials relatively quickly with Alpha and Sabo, but then they also have very potent damage dealers in Roger, Rayleigh, Gaban, in Figureland, Garling, and then also with Yamato. Yamato has a pretty annoying special too. And then once you get over that hump of actually defeating these enemies, Yamato and Roger, Rayleigh, Gaban have on-death effects to launch their specials, which obviously do even more damage than they do normally. So it just found yourself in a situation where even if you got past all of their specials and you got them killed, they just proc their specials anyway and you just take a bunch of damage, which is obviously a major issue. But the trick of this fight is to actually defeat these enemies before they launch their special for the first time. So it means that yes, you are going to have to inevitably tank one of their specials when they die, but as long as they launch that special, you know, without having launched one of their normal specials beforehand, it does make it a lot easier. On top of having this, we have this combination of Shanks giving us a shield, and then Zoro and Sanji hastening everyone, allowing the rest of the specials of S-Hawk, Roger, Rayleigh, Gaban, NUSJURO launching. It just kills everything, and then by that point, you know, we've basically taken hardly any damage. Of course, at this point, we are taking a lot of damage now because their on-death specials are triggering, and then we just have to deal with the bench. And the bench is no slouch either, because they got characters like Apu, which can do very good damage, specifically if you have side characters, and then they also have S-Hawk on the bench, which of course can also be a major issue, and Alpha obviously being able to nerf our special CT, so we're not launching as many specials can obviously be quite a problem. This is where I actually decided to change the bench, because I knew inevitably the bench was going to be playing a part in this specific fight. So I ended up putting Raizo and Shinobu on the bench just to get me a lot more fixed damage guaranteed, and potentially providing the ability to bind the enemy was also pretty strong, and that was obviously a really nice choice to have them there. Obviously here having Zora and Saju trigger to haste everyone, and we have all of our specials ready to go, and the fact that Roger, Rayleigh, Gabbard didn't get knocked out when they did, obviously another major issue as to why we were able to be successful in this fight. Alright, moving on to our next challenge difficulty, boss versus Lilith. So this is a full striker focused team, and this team definitely has some issues in terms of like the different things you have to worry about when you're in this fight. The major issue is like you have a character like Bonnie, which can reverse specials. You have a character like the sword character, which can confuse you, which stops you from launching your specials. And then obviously more importantly, you've got a character like Nami, which if she's able to launch her special after you have the other enemies launching their specials, being able to fully charge two characters, haste them to the top of the order, it's brutal. You can get absolutely destroyed by this specific boss fight. And then of course Lilith, as a Rumble rare recruit, actually does insane damage. For a low cost character, that's one character I actually wish I had, because some of the teams you could build with that character is just incredibly strong. Having a character at 20 cost doing so much, allowing you to fulfill the other roles on your team by SugoFest exclusives, be more supporter role characters rather than being the big damage dealers. So you can see NUSJURO, they're doing so much damage, health cut, fixed damage, damage through defense. Like he just goes crazy. And then that on top of the fact that you can have Roger, Rayleigh, Gabbard, specifically if you get Roger, Rayleigh, Gabbard to launch first, halving the defense of some of those key characters to allow your NUSJURO to get even more KOs is such a big deal. But in my honest opinion, once you get through the utility characters of Bonnie, Nami, and even Saturn for an example, who can special bind you, which can be a bit problematic too. But once you get through like those key utility characters, you kind of just left with damage dealers on the opponent's side of the field, and that's kind of it. So this fight honestly was pretty easy, all things considered. So even though like we do take a lot of damage and there's like really annoying gimmicks going on, it didn't feel as bad as the Alpha or the S-Snake fight at the start of the video. This one felt pretty comfortable to get through without too many issues, and I do believe this was my first attempt at going in this fight, and we're able to secure that victory pretty comfortably. Moving on to our next fight, which is against Pica. Now, I believe this took me 3 attempts to get this one through. This one was definitely annoying because this team, focusing on using these driven characters, was more built around debuffing rather than like having a ton of buffs and doing a bunch of damage and stuff like that. This team is more about debuffing the opponent and then having like really annoying gimmicks, but they do still have pretty good damage dealers in characters such as Kaido and Alba. Even like Big Mom and Katakuri can halve stats and then also do pretty good damage on top of that. And then of course you have versus Blackbeard, which is one of the most annoying characters to go against in Rumble. Reversing the specials, then applying level 10 damage over time. I still don't understand why they decided to give damage over time level 10, because you know, if you're not launching a special and the character performs a normal attack, that damage over time will do over half of your HP immediately. And the fact that Blackbeard not only applies that but also reverses the specials to ensure that your character is doing a normal attack and not performing a special, it is just absolutely disgusting. And then of course on top of all of this you have Pica, which can obviously apply lots of pressure with his debuffs as well. But you see there, the damage coming in there from Roger, Rayleigh, Gabbard is quite potent. And then on top of that, because these enemies have such low HP, you have the health cut and then the fixed damage coming through from NUSJURO. I mean, that alone is already really good, but then you're adding the other hits of damage on top of it. It's kind of gross. Katakuri and Big Mom obviously are going to launch their super special because they've been taking so many hits, and they revive after, you know, they get knocked out for the first time. So of course they're going to be able to secure that the Super Rumble special, which is obviously annoying. So we're going to have those half stats, which is kind of annoying, meaning that we will take more damage. We're not going to do as much damage against the opponent. But the rest of the characters on the team are not actually that bad. Like, the bench is not that big of an issue on this specific challenge fight. It's more about that front line, and once you get through that front line, the rest of the fight does seem pretty easy. And then finally, I wanted to go ahead and see how this team performed against a Dex-driven / powerhouse team here against Avalo Pizarro. And Avalo Pizarro is still another one of those key characters that is just really annoying to go against with his debuffs. And then Blackbeard with his health cuts. You've got Roger, which can provide a huge health cut towards all of our characters on our side of the field. And then they've got Kaido, which is of course one of the best damage dealing characters you can use in the game. And then on the bench, of course, they do have Pell. They've got the Dex Big Mom. Like, it's a pretty solid team overall. But once again, very similarly to the previous fight, they've got some pretty annoying debuffers on the front line. And once you can get through that, the rest of the fight does seem pretty mundane, pretty straightforward, nothing too crazy to worry about. But of course, one of the big issues that slasher teams currently have is that they don't have a ton of characters that do utility gimmick focused effects. They are mainly focused around doing as much damage as you can in a short period of time. And they are very good at doing that. Like, they are probably one of the best offensive teams in the game, but defense-wise and utility-wise, gimmick-wise, they are pretty bland. They don't really do a whole lot in that regard. But with this current setup, one of the main issues is that you don't have as much special CT as normal slasher teams. So offsetting that with some more defensive focused abilities is probably the best way forward, because NUSJURO just does so much goddamn damage with his special ability. That's kind of like where you have to build the team around. But overall, I found this team to be really, really fun to use. Definitely plan to use this more moving forward. And it seems relatively reliable, all things considered. Obviously, defense can be a problem if you're up against a lot of gimmick and debuff focused abilities. That's where this team can kind of fall flat. But thank you very much for watching. Hopefully you did enjoy it, and if you did, make sure to go ahead and leave a like. And if you want to stay up to date with all of the content I post, including more One Piece Treasure Cruise content, make sure to hit the subscribe button down below. But on that, guys, I'll see you guys within the next video. いつかきっと返しに花海賊になってな。上等だ。